Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
Religion served its purpose in 3D. We needed a conduit between us and the divine because, again, as we mentioned in the previous episode, separation is defined by polarity, and the divine, source, God, whatever, actually cannot exist in a time and a place or in any concept that allows for separation or polarity, because that can only be whole. And as we are expanding our consciousness to enable ourselves to move from 3D separation into 5D wholeness, we cannot have anything serve as a conduit between us and source, or us and the divine, or us and God, or however you want to say it, because no one can be a conduit or connect us to effectively what is ourselves.
Well, it makes sense. How can we truly make a choice if someone else is telling us what to choose?
Oh, very true.
And that is why I think we've had such a backlash from religion of late.
Yeah.
Because I want to make my own choices. I don't want someone else to make them for me.
How can I really know what is right or wrong for me?
Yeah.
Until I try and I exercise that choice. I'm actually not going to go and hurt anyone, at least not intentionally.
Well, because that's the thing,
process,
right? It feels like religion was very much, there was a lot of it that was based within fear.
And to be fair, it was, again, necessary at a time when consciousness was such that we did have the capacity to hurt others in our most extreme experience of separation, that it was the linchpin we needed to keep us from destroying ourselves.
Which totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about a long, long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, we can all start to see that we are able to make our own choices, that there are really no rules, that we can do really what feels right to us, and that is how we heal and move forward and move through.
And in the process, not harm others.
Exactly. But does that mean that we can't really be full participants in any religious practice
if
we're not going to keep our wholeness?
No, I really believe that the more we come into our evolution, the more we come into 5D, some people might really want to be able to express their faith through a particular religion or within a particular community. And that's going to feel right and good to them. And I think that's beautiful. I think there's still something to be said for the community that some religions can provide. But it's really about understanding why we want to continue to practice a particular faith or religion. Is it because it's just something we know? Is it familiar? Is it because we completely agree with the tenets of it or the practice of it? Again, it's about coming into it consciously, not just because we were born into it or because there's some insecurity that drives us into it because we have to hide. Yeah.
If I don't follow this, something bad will happen to me. Mm-hmm. If anything's telling you to do something outside of yourself, it's where you still are not in your full power.
Yeah.
If we're saying that if anything is telling you what to do, you're giving your power to it, right? So therefore, religion is deriving its power from the fact you are separated.
Entirely. And it just perpetuates the separation by giving you rules. But morality and the rules that come from religion are very much a human thing. When we are our most divine selves, compassion and humility are actually a given. They don't have to be dictated, because when we think we're a nice person, or we think that we're a good person, and we think that we are somehow moral, those are all just ego opinions, right? Those are all just ego projections. And I found that when you're not subscribing or allowing yourself to be defined by all of that, but you're just really trying to come from a place of being a whole individual, all of those things just become givens, that they don't have to be quote unquote practiced. And like you had said, people tend to turn to religion because they're so afraid. They're so afraid that they're actually bad, that they need to be told, this is the roadmap to being good. And morality is that roadmap, right?
And I guess it makes sense because also when we say about compassion and being a good person and being in 5D and stuff, it's kind of the idea that if I can understand why you did what you did, even if I haven't been in your shoes, I can appreciate that you had a reason, you were doing your best. It removes wrong and right.
Entirely.
So then no one's judging anyone.
Yeah.
And some of the beauty of religion, there is beauty in love and light and all this kind of stuff. But
Very much.
But, it's getting bogged down by the rules of it. And, the problem is that because the fear is naturally embedded in the words, commandments, you are being commanded.
Mm-hmm.
little things like that. That if you're able to separate the fear from the message, great. But how many people are actually able to separate the fear from the message?
Not many.
And so we have to look at it critically. Yeah. And we have to see, is this an actual line to something bigger than me? Mm-hmm. Is this helping me facilitate a line to something bigger than me? Mm-hmm. Or is this making me scared of something that's bigger than me?
Or is it also allowing me to see that I'm just as big? Does this continue to make me feel powerless? Because all it is maybe just telling me that I'm powerless. And that because I'm powerless that I need something else. Because to me that's always, well, I won't even go into my opinion.
But that means that religion itself will not go away, right? It's not going away anytime soon.
It's not, because as we discussed around the 4 pillars of trust, faith is a big one. There's going to be a lot of people who are really going to struggle with getting from, I believe in something, right? God, and I've had this practice, and I go to church, and this is what I grew up in, to, oh wow, karma's my bitch, right? We all have different levels and of our comfort when it comes to the divine and our faith. And some of us will get to a pretty comfortable place in 5D of I can accept that God is within me, etc. And no, I still need to go to church. I still need to sing the songs, and I still need the hymns and the prayers, but I can still get to where you're at too. I can still see where you're coming from, right? I think it's just that ability to acknowledge where we can all exist on that spectrum. And it's a vast spectrum. As we know, faith is an extremely vast spectrum.
Well, this is the thing. I think I said this in a very previous episode, is that my most religious friends and family from different religions, we have very common conversations when we're talking about the intention. Yeah. But that's because also they are able to see it for the intention, and they don't view it as the letter of the law. It's a conduit for connecting to the faith in themselves. Right. Yes.
And it will come to a point, and it will take a couple more generations, what I'm seeing, until religion will have taken on a new form for people. It really does. It's still going to be a couple more generations, but it's well on its way. Because as we know, as we sort of see 3D concepts go, and religion being one of the tent poles of 3D, because faith is a very big thing, because that's not going when it comes to 3D. It's just the institutions. So anything that keeps religion separate will go, but the belief and the faith will still be there.
And that's a beautiful thing, no?
It's a very beautiful thing. And so as we've needed to evolve as humans, so has religion. And it's been very slow to. When you're speaking of God, when you're speaking of love, when you're speaking of the need for human connection, it's a universal language.
Yeah.
And that's why I think religion will still be around. But again, it's all going to be from choice. It's going to be conscious choice.
So really, religion has not just been about, I am going to save you for the next life and all the things that we talk about. Because we can break down everything. We talk about power, someone coming to save you, that's religion. We talk about feeling powerless, that's religion. Not being good enough to get into your heaven, that's religion.
Yeah.
I mean, death and life and who deserves what, where, also religion, right? Mm-hmm. So there's all those horrific concepts that have kept us stuck in 3D and separation from ourselves, because it's all judgment and shame.
Right. But no judgment on that, because again, it served a purpose.
But then there's a beautiful side of it, which is, and I see it on a very personal level from the people that I know that use religion to just connect to their faith in something bigger and feel love and feel light. But it's a very personal thing, and it's not so much subscribed by the books and the processes and the rituals. It's just a very personal relationship.
I find that when I meet those people, some of them have had past lifetimes as very devout people.
Yeah,
and so as we talked about past lifetimes, those previous lifetimes of sheer and utter devotion, we might easily recall as we move into 5D, because it's going to feel very natural to us. It's not the faith that's on the decline.
It's all the other parts around it.
All the other parts. And because the divine is the divine, and the divine will always exist in 5D, however the divine can be experienced in this world will stay.
So it means that actually, whilst religion may crumble as a construct, the root of it, which is beautiful, which is helping facilitate a connection to the divine, will remain.
Yeah.
Because really, I guess we all need some basis for our faith, whether it is a personal faith of, I know in my heart that I must do this in order to go to bed at night, or it's a bigger faith. Often it's helpful to have an anchor to our faith, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So be it a more organized religion or a more spiritual practice.
Exactly.
We do need some kind of basis from our faith.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and this is why we're going to be picking apart spirituality later in the season. It's because younger generations just have such an incredibly strong sense of self that religion will be a struggle for them.
Well,
because they're not going to want to go outside of themselves.
Well, they don't need to, right? Because
no, they don't.
Faith is connecting to something within yourself, right?
Ultimately,
that reminds you of a higher power. Whether that
reminds you that you are the higher power, ultimately, yes. Yeah. But again, as we discussed, that religion exists within a spectrum, right? And faith can exist along that spectrum. It's always going to be about where can people get in their evolution and where they're comfortable. So for some, they'll need 500 steps, right? Some might take leaps. It just depends. And so what we've been playing through, especially this past decade, have been the extreme experiences of religion and the damage that can result because we're having to burn through it for younger generations. Because younger generations will not respond well. I mean, they are in their own weird way strangely orthodox about certain things. As you kind of might have seen throughout the pandemic, they were almost sometimes the ones who were like religious about wearing masks. And, these Gen Zers are a very unique and unpredictable generation. But one thing that I found is that they are just so connected to themselves that religion just does not play into how they view their future, or their lives, or defines anything about them.
Well, I think the thing is, though, is that even as religion falls, for my generation, I'd say very few of us are religious. It does leave a void, and nature abhors a vacuum. We abhor a vacuum.
Yeah.
So what happens is that, all right, so I don't necessarily believe in communion anymore, so do I believe in a retrograde? It's
yes.
It's the idea that I need to find something to anchor my faith in.
Yeah.
So it can transmute me back to feeling so I can feel like there's something bigger without it being in control of me. But what I've noticed that all these things that people tend to be falling back into, and we've said this a lot in other episodes, but when we have said it in other episodes, it's been about astrology, tarot, cards, angels, even talking to psychics or whatever else.
Yeah, mediums.
We're repeating that same pattern, right?
Oh yeah, because I think it's our nature as divine beings to know and to acknowledge that there is something out there, that there is something. I don't believe that something is necessarily outside of us or bigger than us. It's just that there is something around faith that is truly a part of who we are and our existence that we cannot deny. But people are just going to be constantly looking for it if they keep looking outside themselves. And I think that's why New Age spirituality has just become a religion as well.
Yeah, because it's given a way, as we were saying, for you to connect to that something or to explain that something.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of New Age spirituality is the individuality that it can help cultivate. That, yes, you are an important person, you individually, Rhea, right? As opposed to religion, most religions tend to sort of efface the individual. It's all about the community. It's all about giving over yourself.
But at the same time, if anything is asking you to give away your power, to judge yourself, to shame yourself, or to not let you be free in your own decisions and choices, then it is not truly empowering. And you need to look at why that is. Whether it is a type of manifestation which tells you to pass tests, so you go against yourself in order to get the carrot at the end of the stick. Whether it is you don't say how you feel to someone because we are in a Venus retrograde. Whether it is you run away from the things that have happened to you that have traumatized you because of certain transits, or a psychic explained to me that this is why, or I was cursed. Anything that is not bringing you back to yourself and asking you to meet yourself, take responsibility for yourself, and make choices from that space is disempowering, not empowering. And that is a part of religion that needs to crumble, because 5D is about empowerment. It's about harmony. It's about compassion.
Yeah. And it's also about not waiting for someone else to save us. Because that is one of the most disempowering concepts that to come out of religion, is the belief that we will be saved.
And that's even, by the way, from the universe.
Yeah. The universe will save you.
It will not. Trust me. We waited long enough. It did not save me once. It really did not.
No, you're only happiest when you know that you are in the driver's seat of your life.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah. So if you cannot believe, if it's too much to think that you are your own God, or to even think that you are a co-creator in your life, then just imagine that somehow, unless you are in the driver's seat of your life, you're never going to fully experience what this life can do for you. Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.